Chapter 65 Gong Sheng and Bat Ancestor. Outside the metropolis, within an underground palace. Gurgle. At the bottom of the underground palace, it was filled with rolling blood water, and gurgling bubbles rose above the blood water. As if at the bottom of the blood water, there was a great fire burning. The blood water tumbled, and a rolling blood mist rose up in the air above. Around the night piled up the whole blood fog underground palace. It looked exceptionally eerie. In the center of the blood pool, a stone protruded, above which sat a white-robed man with his eyes closed. However, a blood-colored water column emerged from the blood pool, seemingly passing through his body and locking him on top of the boulder. Originally, everything was calm. At this moment, in the outside world, King Shikong displayed his two-hon returns to the army. And at that moment, a strand of vast and righteous chair suddenly appeared out of thin air in the blood mist geomancy, steeply drilling into the top of the white-clothed man's head. Buzz. This wisp of Haran Genki, however, seemed to instantly give the white-clothed man countless strength. As the white-clothed man steeply blossomed a white light around his body, as if he was trying to break free from the blood water chains on his body. Wow. After breaking free for a while, the blood water chain settled down. Heh, Gong Sheng, you shouldn't try in vain. Under my blood prisoner formation, you still want to escape. King Shikong's Shu Dao is good, but he's far worse than you. Your vast and righteous chair can't even break free from my blood prisoner formation, let alone a strand of King Shikong's vast and righteous chair. Hey, a voice came from the bottom of the blood pool. Clatter. The bottom of the blood pool suddenly churned, and steeply, from within the blood pool, a huge bat head emerged. The shape of the head was hideous, and at the place of the right eye, there were two scars, and a cross-shaped scar could be vaguely seen. The white-clothed man, Gong Sheng, was precisely the person Gu Hai was secretly looking for on this trip. The Great Qian Dynasty, the state scholar. Gong Sheng's eyes narrowed slightly as he coldly looked at the huge bat head. Hey, Bat Ancestor, you don't dare to kill me. I'll just keep on absorbing the vast and righteous chair. I firmly believe that evil can't defeat good. Today I am trapped behind bars, only for a greater baptism of light in the coming day. Greater light baptism. Hey ha, you don't dream. The pen falls to frighten the wind and rain. King Shikong's ability. There is only so much Haran righteousness. The one that passes into the underground palace is even more so. I can tell you with certainty. This strand of Haran righteousness is already the limit. There will definitely not be any more, Bat Ancestor said coldly. Just then, Gu Hai's piece of chivalry was written. Boom, boom, boom. In the outside world, a meteor shower of Haoran chair rushed into the sky. The sky was white, and the Haoran chair was like a vast ocean, swooping in all directions of the metropolis. Within the blood mist earth palace, it was also steeply baptized by countless amounts of Haran Genki. Buzz buzz buzz. A burst of sounds of ghosts and gods weeping and chanting came out, and a large amount of vast and righteous chair surged out furiously. The previous one was just a wisp, but at this moment, it was 100 wisps, 10,000 wisps in general, and in an instant, it illuminated the entire underground palace in a white light. Slap. Gong Sheng was as if he heard a slap, viciously slapped on Bat Ancestor's face. One strand of Haoran chair. That's already the limit. There definitely won't be any more. Hey ha. Gong Sheng laughed uproariously in mockery. Buzz. A strand of vast and righteous chair instantly drilled towards the top of Gong Sheng's head, as if it was going to be absorbed by Gong Sheng. Roar. The Bat Ancestor let out a roar and opened his mouth. Suck. Steeply, the vast chair that was about to drill into the top of Gong Yangsen's head was steeply sucked into the Bat Ancestor's mouth. Gong Sheng wasn't annoyed when he didn't manage to absorb the Haoran Genki, but suddenly laughed. Such a vast and righteous chair infesting the great metropolis. It seems that it's someone from my great Qian who has come to find me. Ha. Gong Sheng laughed out loud. HMPH. What you think is beautiful. A strong man of the Book Tao coming to save you. It will only be the same as you, imprisoned in this underground palace of mine. Humph, Bat Ancestor said coldly. Poetry into a sob. Not bad, a capable one. Chivalry. Good poem, good line, kill a man at 10 steps, leave no one behind for 10,000 miles. When it's over, I'll go away and hide my achievements and fame. Good, 3 cups of Ronu. The 5 mountains are light. Good, even if I die, I'm not ashamed of the world's heroes. Who can write your book, Your Excellency, and turn your head to the scriptures? What a great line. You don't even look at the sutra of the palace of Manjushri. What a great man. Ziwei and longevity. Then the one who came to me is called Guhai. Huh, haven't heard of that number. Gongyang Sheng frowned slightly. Humph, it may not be from your Doqian. The Bat Ancestor raised his head and looked upwards, opening his mouth and continuing to inhale the vast chair seeping into the Earth Palace, his eyes gradually narrowing. Bat Ancestor, feeding on the vast chair. You've also taken a fancy to this poem. Hey. Gong Sheng revealed a hint of disdain. The first strokes of the Book Tao that appeared in the metropolis are all mine, Bat Ancestor said coldly. That's why your metropolis Book Tao will never be a success, Gong Sheng coldly said. Metropolis is still martial. Why do we need corrupt literature? Bat Ancestor coldly said. Degrading literature. HMPH. Gongyang Sheng no longer paid any attention, but once again studied this chivalrous song with discretion. Like Gong Sheng, countless Book Tao cultivators in the metropolis were also chewing on this chivalrous line. The poem became a sob. It was too stunning. Countless cultivators of the Book Tao instantly felt like they had won a treasure. The wind direction of the city that had previously despised Guhai one-sidedly also changed. Most people no longer looked at the 3 Guhai as villains. Perhaps they were wrongly accused. However, some of King Shikong's diehards were showing their indignation. 3 villains. Not only did they sneak up behind them, but they also degraded them by stealing the text and stealing the poem. Shameless. Ah, what's stealing a text and stealing a poem? Isn't this the first brush of the book path? It's the first brush, so it can't be stolen. That Guhai, you don't know. I heard that he's only in his 70s. A mortal who came out of a secular area. How much accumulation can he have in the way of calligraphy? How could he possibly write such good verses? Ah, are you saying that someone else made good verses and had Guhai read them out? Definitely. I don't believe it. He can make a poem that sobs. 2 voices appeared in the city. One side began to worship Guhai, while the other, based on their imagination, began to slander Guhai, believing that Guhai's verses were faked by someone else. Fairy Winner's eyes showed anger, and she wanted to go to those unsuspecting people to argue, but there were too many people. It was simply impossible to theorize. In the middle of the small courtyard in the city, Sima Changkong was chewing on the long poem, while the divine martial king frowned slightly. Is this Guhai's Book Tao? Could it be? Your Majesty guessed that Mr. Gu's poem was faked by someone else. Oh, I don't think so, Sima Changkong laughed. Oh, what Guhai said was not out of thin air, but a complete exposition of a fact. On the matter, how can I pretend to be someone else? Sima Changkong laughed. A poem becomes a sob. It seems that every poem has to go through a big brewing process, changing and changing before it can be completely finalized. But Guhai is making it up as he goes along, just in this short period of time. How can he make this masterpiece of the ages? Divine Martial King frowned. This, perhaps it's talent. Sima Changkong also smiled bitterly. Indeed, Guhai seemed to have spat out 1,000-year-old masterpiece just now without thinking, slapping King Shikong in the face. It was indeed a bit evil. But Sima Changkong still believed that it was made by Guhai. not knowing why. The crowd looked up at that image in the sky. In the middle of the image, above the wine banquet square, there was silence. I am a mediocre calligrapher. Thanks to King Shikong for gifting me a piece of To the Han Returning Army. Good poem, good poem. I'll be sure to treasure it carefully and not let your ink treasure get dusty. Gu Hai opened his mouth and laughed. Paw paw. The crowd seemed to hear to crisp slaps ringing out from King Shikong's face. The crowd of officials immediately looked at King Shikong with a blank expression, as if they were looking to see if King Shikong's face was swollen. You have written a masterpiece of the ages, chivalry, and you still say that the book Dao is mediocre. You still want to treasure To Han Returning Army. You don't want the ink treasure to get dusty. You want to take it out and flog it from time to time. King Shikong's face had already turned black to the color of carbon. Long Wen Yu's eyes were glowing as she looked adoringly at Gu Hai. Bing Ji's face showed a bewildered look. Is the Emperor's book Dao really so powerful? Although Li Shenji was smiling, but there was a general displeasure in his eyes. Just ask Li Shenji, how could he have thought before that Gu Hai book Dao was so powerful? Really, didn't he come from the barren Thousand Island Sea? Still treasuring, don't even bother wiping my ass, Ziwei instantly added. King Shikong's dark face was suddenly flushed. Gu Hai, this is for us, ha ha ha, so Ziwei and I are also the two strong men of the 1,000 years. Good poem, good poem. Chong Sheng was instantly excited as he looked towards the paper, chivalry. The two of you are aggrieved. This poem is just to give you to a proper name, Gu Hai laughed. Not bad. We've finally righted our names. We're the two strong men of the 1,000 years. Ziwei, don't you think so? Chong Sheng shamelessly righted himself. Indeed, we are the two strong men of 1,000 years. In fact, I had wanted to compose a poem and then recite it to everyone, Ziwei said with some regret. Chang Sheng's face changed. Recite my ass, your poetry. Don't recite it in front of me. What's wrong with my poetry? Haven't you been listening to it for how many years? The two were suddenly arguing. It looked like they were about to pinch each other. Both of you, let's not talk about poetry. Come sit down and eat first. Gu Hai immediately interrupted. Good. The two suddenly changed their faces and answered in one mouthful. The surrounding officials were awed for a while. When these two heard about food, they changed their faces faster than turning over a book. Are they really the two strong men of the 1,000 years? Chivalrous men, these two eaters. The banquet continued. The two eaters finally showed their rough side. Eat, eat, eat. After roughly one instant stick, the original atmosphere of the wine banquet, talking to each other suddenly, turned wrong, and everyone suddenly stopped with their mouths open. Instead, they saw Ziwei with a lamb leg in his left hand and a cow leg in his right hand, and after a few tears, the two meat legs were eaten up. Chong Sheng even picked up a wine barrel and poured it into his mouth, as if he was pouring water. One meat leg after another. One barrel of wine after another. The attendants at the side who were responsible for transporting the food were all running around sweating, while the duo's devouring had only just begun. Eat, eat, eat. That amount of food stunned a group of officials. The same also stunned the 200 million people in the city. I don't know who suddenly said a mouthful. These two goods are rice bucket demon changed.